On February 24th, 1942, the skies over Los Angeles were quiet. Then all of a sudden a siren and then gunfire. Thousands of rounds were fired at something drifting silently over the city. A massive object which refused to fall, refused to break, and was never identified. What they saw terrified the military and was quickly buried by the public eye. In tonight's video, we're going to reopen this case and look at some of the information presented. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So February 24th of 1942 marks an important date in ufology. This was the day that the Battle of Los Angeles took place. And basically what transpired is around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, there was an object spotted in the sky, and the U.S. military actually fired at this object. They fired at it for a couple of hours, and this isn't a real event. Several people died from this incident, and there's eyewitness testimonies about it too. The question's always been why the military fired something at night if it was nothing there, and there was something there. Now, this photo that you see here is kind of doctored up, and I'll explain to you in just a minute what transpired with this photo. But of course, the military went in and they stated later that it was a weather balloon or blimp of some type. And we know that this was the first time, to my knowledge, that they used a weather balloon or a blimp or something to try to explain to the public about an actual UFO. This happened 5 years later, of course, during the Roswell incident. You guys remember that, and I'll touch upon that in another video. But basically, there was a UFO or alien ship crash, and they later stated that it was a weather balloon, which we know that it wasn't a weather balloon. Now, with this photo that you see here, this photo was actually kind of doctored up. The original photo is what you're going to see right here. All right, and this is going to be the original photo. I know it doesn't look like the one that we're used to seeing, but it was reasons for that. It wasn't an uncommon practice to kind of doctrine up an image that was put into the paper. Remember, this is 1942 and everything was being printed in black and white, but it does resemble this original photo. And the negatives were never found on this particular photo. And what's always been curious to me is you guys see that light shining on it. If there was nothing there, why didn't the light shine in other directions? And what are those little objects around? That could have been from when they were firing at it. I don't know. But there's a main object there in the center of this. That has never been explained. And of course, since we can't find the negative, that also raises eyebrows. It always made me curious of what they actually saw. And here's going to be the two side by side. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to play a quick radio broadcast from that incident. This happened about a day after all that transpired.
Anti-aircraft guns went into action against unidentified aircraft in the Los Angeles area shortly after 3 a.m. Pacific wartime this morning. The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach. Army officials declined to comment on the possibility that the object might have been a blimp. However, it required nearly 30 minutes to travel some 25 miles, far slower than an airplane. U.S. Army planes quickly took to the dark skies, but whether they contacted the object has not been announced. Army officials say they will not comment until they receive a full report of the action. Although some watchers say they saw airplanes in the air, semi-official sources say they probably were the U.S. Army's pursuit. Several observers say they saw one or more planes spotlighted by 20 or 30 searchlights. The object moved southward, presumably over Huntington Park at the western edge of Los Angeles, and on southward to about Long Beach on the coast. By 3:30 a.m., observers said the object appeared to be over the south of Long Beach. Searchlights closely followed the object down the coast and kept it centered in their glare. Shells frequently could be seen bursting near the object, but none appeared to hit it. The shooting stopped about 3:30 a.m. Approximately 20 minutes after the firing died down, the ship returned and headed westward from Long Beach toward Santa Monica. The guns went into action again, hurling round after round of shells at the object. The second barrage appeared to be closer to downtown Los Angeles, since watchers could hear the concussion of the guns more clearly and the flash of bursting shells was brighter. Then the ship disappeared for the second time over the ocean.
So it's not the first time we've heard about this at that particular time. And I remember in 1942, UFOs, the term hadn't been defined yet. That wasn't until 1947. But what you're seeing here is going to be vintage photos that people have taken in the 1940s of particular objects around and before that time here. And I've had these on my channel before. We've seen these particular photos of objects that people have taken. They weren't sure what it was, and they took photos of it. There's going to be another one. Of course, it would look like a blimp from the 70s, but it's not. And of course, the most infamous, or I should say most famous photo is going to be that there. Now, what they saw, I don't know. Here is supposed to be some vintage footage of a UFO. This is probably one of the earliest, as it has in my notes, of a UFO being recorded. And this was recorded in the 1940s too. Now, what this actually is, I don't know. People have stated that someone may have went in and just doctored this up. We don't know because I can't get a hold of the original footage. I just have a lot of downloaded archive video footage that I'm showing to you. And then what you're going to be seeing is going to be some photos too. Now, it's just kind of hard to imagine that this would be falsified. You guys just don't see how the light or anything bends around this object. I know it's kind of been doctrined up a little bit, but they didn't have Photoshop and stuff back then. And you clearly see what could possibly be a disc-shaped object, or what we are calling a flying saucer, or UFO was defined back in the 40s. And with this, it looks exactly like, or it does resemble a lot of the archive photos that I have here, especially that middle one. So could it have been what they saw was something similar to this? I've heard about these craft being interdimensional. We've heard so many things about it, but there's also documentation on it. You guys know after this stuff happens, the president kind of demands to know what transpired and stuff. And there's notes and stuff that talk about this. Now, they're kind of hard to read as kind of what you're seeing here, but they did do some updates to the president. They did kind of tell him what they thought it was and some conclusions and stuff for it, but it's very difficult to read. This is the only copy that I have of it, and I'll have to try to somehow get a website up so I can archive this stuff out there so you guys can go to the website and check it out and download it and read it yourself. And then here is going to be other photos that were taken at that time. Now, these photos didn't come out in the 1940s when this transpired, but these are photos that I have. Now, I can't say that these are true and these are legit, but these are other photos that witnesses or people say that have taken or was taken around that time that this all transpired. I can't really say yay or nay on that, and this is supposed to be footage too. Now, if all this was true, this would have followed that case, and newspapers would have, the media would have just went crazy on this. But you guys take it what you will from this. I do believe something transpired at that time. I do believe, once again, it was probably their first time dealing with something like this, and then from that point they learned to do a better cover-up, as we know what happened and transpired in 1947. So if you guys like stuff like this, let me know. I can dive a little bit deeper. I don't want to go too in depth because it'd be an hour-long video, but sometimes people want longer videos and stuff too. But I got a lot more stuff coming up. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about this, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. As always, I appreciate you watching.